Hello Year 3, today in computing we are going to continue using Scratch to use the repeat and forever loops. Last week you had a go at creating a sprite and creating a backdrop or a stage and experimented using some of the coding buttons, and today we are going to focus on using the repeat and forever loops to make our sprite move. So you will need to use the hyperlink or just Google Scratch to access the website. Okay, so hopefully this screen looks familiar to you. Last week you had a go at creating your sprite and backdrop, and I have already done that. I've got a forest and a bear as my sprite. And remember, if you need to change the backdrop, you can click on the button at the bottom, and then this one here for the sprites. Now, remember that if you need to, you can use the tutorial button at the top to help you, and it will show you how to do things. Now, what I'm going to do, or what I want my bear to do, is I want him to walk across the forest floor. So I'm quite happy with where my bear is starting. And when I want my Scratch animation to start, I'm going to use the when clicked. So when the green flag is clicked, it will always start in this position, and to do that I am going to get the bear to always go to the position he is in now. So that's my first step. So whenever I click the green flag, then the bear will go back to this position. Now, another thing I should point out is if you go to costumes, you can change your sprite, you can change the color, you can change the size and do all sorts. And down the side, I've got 3 different bears, and if I just click on them, you can see that the bear's legs move. So when I use these 3 different costumes, it will look like my bear is walking. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to looks, and I want to switch the costume. I want my bear to start as bear A because that's how he's going to start walking. And then I'm going to get the bear to wait for just a couple of seconds. Otherwise it would go very quickly. So I'm going to change the wait to 2 seconds. And then looking down the side, I think I need my bear to switch the costume to costume B, so we will see his feet change, so it looks like he starts to walk. And then we need the bear to move, so I'm going to go back to motion because he's going to be walking, and I'm going to put in the move button. So I'm going to press the top one to see what my animation will look like already. So it was a very small step, so if I play that again, I can see it doesn't move very far. So I might increase it to 25 steps. And hopefully my bear will move a little bit further. There we go, he's moved ever so slightly forward. Then what I'm going to do is switch the costume to costume C to kind of complete the bear's walk, okay? And then next, let's have a look down the side. There's lots of different buttons, and when you're coding, you might have to play around, trial some things, see if it works, and maybe take bits out and add bits in. So I've switched the costume to costume C, and I'm just going to repeat this bit again with the costume C. So I'm going to wait another 2 seconds, and then I'm going to get the bear to move another 25 steps. So let's play that from the start. The bear is moving ever so slightly across the screen, but he hasn't moved very far. So this is where our repeat button comes in really handy. So instead of repeating this over and over again, if I go to Control and then Repeat, I'm going to put my repeat in here because I want to include the costume. as well, so I might just have to shuffle it around. I'm not going to include that one in the repeat because I always want my bear to start there as he's walking. I don't want him to move back every time he starts walking. So let's have a look to see how the repeat helps us move our sprite across the screen. So he's walking. And you can see that repeat button. I don't need to do anything. The repeat button is doing all the work for me just by repeating those coding sections that I've put in. And my bear will eventually walk across the forest. So you can pause this video here to have a go at using the repeat loop to make your animation move across the screen, or something different. It's up to you. So pause the video to give that first one a go. Okay, so for our next animation or our next sprite, we want it to do something using the forever loop. So I've changed my backdrop and my sprite to an owl in the forest. And I would like my owl to continuously fly around. So again, in the costume section, I've got three different owls. So one just where he's going to be sitting on a branch, and then a couple of him with his wings out, so it looks like he's flying. So to start off with, I'm going to move my owl because I'd like him to perch on the branch, and I'm always going to start it with the when clicked, which is in events. So I'm going to drag that onto my screen. So when clicked, I always want him to be sitting on the branch. So I need to make sure it's at costume A because that's with his wings not flying. So that's my first step. Then my owl needs to always start on this branch. So because I've placed it on the branch, it has the X and Y axis already labeled. So I can just say, go to that position, so it's already put it in there. So as I move him, you can see the numbers change as well, but I always want him to start up here. And then I'm going to get him to wait a couple of seconds to slow the process down, otherwise it would go very quickly. So that's my first part. So if I just click it, he's always going to start like that. That's the first job. Then what I need to do is switch the costume so that it looks like the wings are, the owl is flying. And I'm going to switch to owl C like that. So as I do it step by step, we can see he's ready to fly. He's not quite on the branch, so I'm going to put him on the branch and I'm going to add in a go to that position just above it, so hopefully it looks like he stays on the branch. And again, I'm going to add in a wait 2 seconds. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the sprite around to get him to glide across the screen. So he's going to maybe glide all the way down here, and if I go to motion, it has glide to this position here. And I'm going to make that a couple of seconds long. And then I'm just going to do it again until he moves around. And my numbers are already changing for me. I don't have to change any of those. And then he's going to glide to the bottom here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him to turn around. So I need to switch the costume. And I'm actually going to switch it to owl D, so he's facing the other way. And then he's going to glide back up. So if I play it now, we can see him glide through the forest, hopefully. There we go. And he's turned. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him to go back up onto the branches. For a couple of seconds. And he's going to move along back to kind of where he started. And then I'm going to change to costume A again. So let's have a look at the animation. So I'm going to press it and start it to see what the owl does. So he starts flying across the forest, or bouncing, it kind of looks like. He flies back up to the first branch. Now, that's all sorted, but what I want to do is I want him to keep repeating that same coding pattern. So if we go to control, I can use the forever section, and I'm going to add it in under this bit here. So now I can see that all of these bits are hopefully going to get repeated. So let's start. So I'm going to click it. And hopefully my sprite will continuously fly across the screen without me needing to do anything, because I've used that forever loop to hopefully make it to hopefully make the owl continue flying, and it has done so. So your task today is to have a go at using your sprite and the repeat loop and the forever loop to get your sprite to move across the screen somehow. Remember that you will need to experiment with it. You will have to trial and error some things to see what works and what doesn't work. But it's quite easy because you can just take away each section and add new bits in. I hope you enjoy this computing lesson, and don't forget to send any of your work in, because we'd love to see your sprites and animations.